All right, so you see IT spending increasing 9% in 2025. What's the catalyst?
The catalyst is the generative AI. We are seeing companies move back from the cost saving, the optimizations, or the upgrading that they've been doing for the last 18 months or so. 2025, they're shifting back to growth.
So
Focus
shifting
on
back.
growing the business, focus on growing revenue, and they need generative AI and the new applications to do that.
So let me ask you, when we're talking about that 9% growth, how much of that is directly tied to AI? Because I would imagine there are some other areas where companies want to spend.
There are lots of other areas where companies need to spend. Most of the growth in generative AI spending this year and a bit of next year is actually in the tech sector. So the companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Alibaba, Baidu are all building the infrastructure will be needed for generative AI. Software companies are spending to put generative AI in their products and services. We start to see CIOs spending on that next year. So we've seen the foundation being built, CIOs building it and putting it in next year, 2026, and then 2027 really accelerating their growth.
Okay, that's a long-term outlook. I just want to focus on 2025 for a minute, looking at that 14% increase in software. So you're saying that spending is mostly the software companies themselves spending to basically bolster their products with Gen AI, or is it other companies looking to buy software to maximize Gen AI?
It's a little bit of all of it. There is certainly a tremendous amount of money being spent by software companies to bolster their products. Most do not have the capabilities to put their own generative AI models at the base of their product. So they are partnering in order to bring in other people's models in order to add it to their software. But the big spending is still CIOs getting ready for that generative AI, which means in many cases upgrading the systems that they have, getting on the sort of modern infrastructure, and making sure that their data is ready for generative AI. Where we see them
Okay.
failing right now in their proof of concepts is their data is not always ready to support generative AI.
That is interesting. That's something we've heard from quite a number of companies and analysts, that the fact that the data and the demands that companies want to put on their generative AI programs, they may not all be kind of coming together in the way that they had hoped. The biggest area of growth, at least when it comes to your forecast for next year, is data centers, over 15%. That's not really surprising, but it's actually a slowdown from 2024. In 2024, it was 35%. Next year, it's only 15%. What does that tell us?
It tells us that the denominator is getting awfully big. Uh, we talked about the infrastructure being built out for generative AI, and that, for a great sense, is the number of servers that we need. Enterprises, banks, governments, retailers are all building out and buying up these new AI optimized servers. But the biggest purchaser of them are still the hyperscalers. They're trying to build out the infrastructure, the data centers that will be needed. And when we think of the massive amount of money that they're spending, if we think the hyperscalers, Amazon, Microsoft, Baidu, Google, all of the money that they've spent on CPU-based servers from 2000 to 2026, that total number will be surpassed by how much they're going to spend on these AI optimized servers by 2026.
Okay.
The investment that they're making is staggering, 70% growth amongst the hyperscalers in these AI optimized servers. So they are
Okay.
keeping up the net increase, but that's bringing down the growth rate.